This is London's biggest conversation with Anthony Davis.
Wednesday, May 22, your late night London. I'm Anthony Davis. Thank you for joining this extended news special, as today we've been reacting to the tragic story, the tragic attack in Woolwich, as terrorism returned to the streets of Britain today. A soldier murdered by two suspected Islamists who attempted to behead and disembowel him as he left his barracks. Well, joining me now is political and social commentator Mohammed Ansar. Mohammed, thank you for joining us on the programme tonight.
Good evening, Anthony.
So, obviously, this is something that has really struck all of us. We never thought we'd see something quite as graphic as this. It's certainly been captured in a graphical way. Let's just firstly just have your reaction to today's events as they unfolded.
I think, first and foremost, we have to extend our condolences and our prayers and thoughts to the family and the loved ones of the victim, of the man who was killed, and of course everybody, I think, across London, across Britain and elsewhere will want to condemn such an awful and sickening act of violence. And I call it criminality. I think until the facts emerge more clearly, and I wish our politicians perhaps had taken a more measured approach and had cooler heads, I think it's caused an unnecessary escalation. I'm really worried and saddened here that on the social media stream that potentially the far right have turned up in areas of London and are causing trouble with the police. And we also hear that mosques are being attacked around the country. And I think first and foremost, we understand that people are angry, we understand that people are upset, but we have to call for peace, we have to call for cool heads and calmness. This isn't the way to respond to such a terrible act happening on the streets of London.
I'm pleased you make the distinction between terrorism and criminality, and as you quite rightly said, the government did seem very quick to announce their meeting of Cobra. Now, if that was something that they were going to do, maybe they should have done that behind closed doors, and certainly two sets of locked doors, because it did seem that the media and possibly people socially were very keen to pick up on that and put two and two together. Just explain from a religious perspective how this attack today bears no resemblance to the teachings of Islam.
I think that the most important thing that people must appreciate about Islam, and there's an incredible amount of ignorance about Islam still. I mean, it's odd even to say and suggest that in 2013 that almost three-quarters of the British public are largely ignorant about Islam, as some recent research has said, and two-thirds of those who say they know something about Islam say they've only picked that up from the media. And of course, we have no real way of educating people about Islam, especially if, and I hate to veer into politics at a time like this, but this is a time where people need to learn more about Islam, not less, and certainly not hateful and spiteful messages and misinformation about Islam. Islam, of course, preaches tolerance. It teaches that people are entitled to their own beliefs. I think what's happened, though, if you like, in some ways, the tinder has become very dry recently, with the rise of the right in Britain and the far right across Europe in many nations. Some would even call the English Defence League, and even certain, we hear about swivel-eyed loons and UKIP affiliates, but we would say there are certain far right tendencies within the political scene here. There's an awful lot of mistrust against Muslims and immigrants, and this is feeding into this cauldron, into this crucible, and things like this become sparks, and they needn't become sparks. They needn't become sparks that ignite communities, that inflame tensions, that put communities on edge or fear of one another, and it needn't happen. Islam is incredibly tolerant, incredibly encompassing, and of course, utterly peaceful. There is no justification for the taking of life in any such way. And I think it's time we started asking questions, when perhaps some of the dust has settled around this issue, about why we feel the need to associate Islam with any terrible acts that Muslims do.
Is there more? Sorry to interrupt you, Mohammed, but is there more that religious leaders could do? Like we were discussing imams earlier, and saying that we haven't heard much today. We certainly haven't seen a kind of visual representation of the Muslim faith stepping forward and actually announcing that, or denouncing, as I say. We've heard from we've heard statements, but do we need to see people? Do we need to see a visual representation of this denial?
You know what, I think if we need to see people, then so be it. Minds and hearts need to be put at rest. I know tonight I've only been able to do, the radio from afar. Tomorrow, hopefully, I'll be doing some television and try to just communicate to people, to let people know that this is a time that we should be calling for peace. This has been denounced by all people of all faith and all religious communities, and reprisals and knee-jerk reactions are not what we need right now. I think the important thing to keep in mind is criminal and terrible acts which are done by people do not reflect their religious persuasion or even a lack of a faith. And so to take an incident, we don't know the religion of the person who was killed, we don't know the religion of the person who did it, we know that certain things have been said, but we really must learn to take a more measured response and to take calm and call for peace and call for unity amongst communities now. We don't need to inflame tensions further.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us, Mohammed Ansar, political...